you are still of the flesh. For as long as there is jealousy and quarreling among you, are you not of the flesh, behaving according to human inclinations? For when one says, I belong to Paul, and another, I belong to Apollos, are you not merely human? What then is Apollos? What is Paul? Servants through whom you came to believe as the Lord assigned to each. I planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the growth. So neither the one who plants nor the one who waters is anything, but only God who gives the growth. The one who plants and the one who waters have a common purpose, and each will receive wages according to the labor of each. For we are God's servants, working together. You are God's field, God's building. The word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
I really like to be in control. Those of you who know me are probably not really surprised by this. I don't have to be in control of everything, but it's hard for me to sit back if I think things are falling through the cracks. So, little known fact about me, I was always the class president from 6th grade until I graduated. When I was in middle school, we would have these spirit days, these dress-up days, where each grade was assigned a certain color to wear, and points were awarded based on what percentage of the class wore that color. Our school was 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and it was always assumed that 8th grade would win. I have been told that I'm also a little competitive. I would go around to all of the 6th grade classes and strongly encourage them to wear the correct color. We were assigned red. On the day of the competition, not only would I wear our color myself, but I would bring everything I owned in that color to loan it out to anyone who may have forgotten. That year, 6th grade won. But even still, that was when I started to learn the lesson that it doesn't matter how hard I tried, how many people I talked to, or how many extra red shirts I brought, the result was out of my control. Because even though we won that particular day, I am sorry to say, 6th grade still lost Spirit Week. I was crushed. I felt let down. And to be sure, middle school Spirit Week isn't of eternal significance, though try telling that to any 13-year-old. But sometimes the way we can't control our legacy is of great significance. So I invite you to take a moment and think back over your life. Think about the things that you cared deeply about, but had no control over how they ended up. Even if you aren't familiar with the musical Hamilton or the song The World Was Wide Enough, you probably have some knowledge of this founding father and his infamous duel. At an early age, Alexander Hamilton comes onto the scene as a bit of an underdog. He was the person least expected to be a political leader of this new order, this country declaring its independence from England. From an island in the Caribbean emerges a man who would have profound influence in our country as we know it. And at the end of his life, he probably had no idea how profound his legacy would be. Hamilton and Aaron Burr started out as friends. Their lives ran parallel in so many ways. They both graduated from college early. They both went to law school. They began practicing law very near each other. They had babies at around the same time, and they both lost their parents at an early age. They were both important founding fathers at a time in American history that people were trying to figure out how to live and work together in this new form of government. But their party began to be divided, and people chose sides. 1,800 years earlier, give or take, there were two other men who also had a lot in common. Now, we don't know as much about their backgrounds, but we do know that Paul and Apollos, their lives were a little bit parallel. Paul comes onto the scene as a little bit of an underdog. He was the person least expected to be a religious leader of this new order, this new sect of believers following God. Paul was a religious leader, but not like the kind who followed Christ. He was brash and harsh. He imprisoned and executed people who followed Jesus. And then one day, his life changes and takes a completely different direction. From the corners of religion emerges this leader who changed the face of our faith as we know it. And at the end of his life, I suspect he had no idea how profound his legacy would be. Paul and Apollos were both religious leaders when they both had life-changing experiences that pointed them to the way of Christ. They were both zealous. They both had initiative to travel and preach. They both ministered to the church in Corinth, a church in Greece that was trying to figure out how to live and work together in this new way of understanding God. The church began to be divided, and people chose sides. 2 stories, 4 men, and the question before us: what is a legacy? So the year was 1804. Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr had had political divisions that went back a long time. Burr had famously unseated Hamilton's father-in-law in the Senate. The election of 1800 did not go how anyone thought it would. Hamilton's son, Philip, had been killed in a duel himself in 1801. And by 1804, Hamilton vocally slammed Burr in his run to be the governor of New York. So through a course of correspondence, it became evident that their honor required them to duel. Though, let's take a moment and acknowledge that honor should never involve firearms or killing. 10 paces out, turn and fire the shot. Now the thing is, no one knows exactly what happened. The first-hand accounts are understandably slim and don't necessarily agree. We don't really know if Hamilton threw away his shot and pointed his gun at the sky on purpose, if it misfired, or if it was in response to him being wounded. But regardless of why, Hamilton's shot went into the air and Burr's went into Hamilton. Burr survived, but his political career was over. He was charged with murder, though acquitted, but he was never the same. In the song that describes this event, Hamilton's composer, Lin-Manuel Miranda, imagines both men's feelings through this time, because both enter this scene knowing it could be the end of their lives. And really, it was the end for both of them, whether by death or by being ostracized. So as the bullet approaches, Hamilton stops and asks, what is a legacy? It's planting seeds in a garden you never get to see. I wrote some notes at the beginning of a song someone will sing for me. America, you great unfinished symphony you sent for me. And though I would never equate the founding of our nation with Christianity, because we should never conflate those two things, the song echoes the words of Paul. And I think we can hear echoes of our own questions in it as well. Yet faced with the same question, the question of what to do when division comes with how his current work impacts his legacy, Paul has a slightly different answer, a slightly different outlook. I planted, Paul says, Apollos watered, and God brought the growth. Sure, Paul and Apollos had different gifts, different approaches, and that was okay because they both wanted the same thing. Paul understood what is true for all of us, that none of us really controls what will happen. None of us controls the outcome of our actions, no matter how hard we try. And oh, do we try? We raise our kids, we train them up in the way we think they should go, and when they get older, they choose a completely different direction. Or we work tirelessly to help someone in our lives, only to have them turn on us. Or we meet a person or group or situation, and it envelops us. It takes all of our energy. We pour our life into it, and then circumstances change, and we part ways and must let go of our grip. We all know what it's like to work at something and not control the fruits of our labor, or not to ever even know what those fruits are. It can be so discouraging to plant and plant and plant and never never see that garden come to fruition. It can be discouraging to try to make a difference, to try to help, to try to make the world a better place, and feel like nothing turns out the way we would have liked. Which is why I wonder if what is our legacy is the wrong question altogether. Because the legacy we leave is never something we have absolute control over. We contribute to it, we tell our story, and then it takes on a life of its own. The country is unrecognizable today from what Alexander Hamilton probably imagined, because the world is always changing. And what Paul reminds us of is that it's never really our story to begin with. As people of faith, we know that as we plant, as we water, as we partner with God to co-create a future that we can't even imagine, our actions are not ours alone. They join with voices like ours who amplify them. In that co-laboring, God is present. And God uses our actions to bring love and justice and peace and goodness, to bring about the realm that God imagines. So it can be easy to hear stories like Hamilton's and like Paul's and think, I could never do that, so why even try? That won't be my legacy. I can never change the world. I am not going to lead a revolution. I can barely keep my head above water. I could never be the Apostle Paul. I could never lead hundreds and thousands of people to Christ. My words will never be immortalized. I'm doing good to remember to get everything on my shopping list when I go to the grocery store. But I wonder what would happen if instead of thinking about our legacy, we thought more about those seeds that we're planting. What if we each considered one thing we could do this week, this month, to help bring the realm of God to earth, to loosen our grip on the outcome, knowing that we all have limited time? How could the world change if each of us sought to care for those who Jesus cared for so much? The people on the margins, those who have been excluded. What if we lived in faith that the love of God will bring about a bountiful fruit? Sometimes we know that winter is coming and those seeds will have a slim chance of growing, but we plant anyway. Sometimes we know that the ground is dry and rocky, full of obstacles to growth, and we plant anyway. Sometimes we know that others are also planting seeds around us, and those seeds might be filled with hate and evil, but we plant anyway. Because the good news is, we don't know who will come behind us and water those seeds, nurturing them into a ripe and bountiful harvest. Whether or not we ever see the fruit of our labor, we have faith that we join with a God who breathes life into what seems lifeless, who offers the hope of a resurrection to what seems hopeless. We offer kindness, we bring peace, we speak out when we see injustice, we share about a God whose love is wide enough for everyone, because that is what we are called to do. I'm pretty sure that my name won't be remembered in 2,000 years the way Paul's is, or even in 200 years the way Hamilton's is. My hunch is that yours won't be either. But maybe that's not all there is to legacy. So today, and tomorrow, and the day after that, and every day until we have no more days, we plant